Welcome to Tradeshow Media Today. My name is Paul Barron. I'll be your host. We're going to be talking about everything from digital content, social media, and even publishing for trade shows, events, and associations. Make sure and check us out at tradeshowmediapartners.com.
So Joe, now let's shift over to the activity of whether it's an association or a trade show, of how they're using social media as a content tool itself, whether it's a Facebook page, a Twitter channel, a YouTube channel like what we're doing here. Okay. What are your opinions on that, on how that would work?
So the first, let's start with the mistakes that are made, because they're the easiest thing to pick on. And this is notorious across the board, with all companies for that matter. The biggest mistake that's made is we open up all these channels and we start pushing content through without building relationships first.
Got it.
So basically we're starting to send out all this content that we feel is relevant. Some is about us, some is not about us, but still we're pushing it all through. And we wonder at the end of the day why more people aren't sharing it. It's because we haven't done the work up front to build those relationships. So you may say, well, how do you build the relationships? We spent 6 months up front when we started the company just finding out who the key influencers were in our industry, and we made sure that we became friends with all of them.
Yeah.
How do you become friends with all of them? Basically, you find out the information that they're sharing, that they're creating, let's say it's through blog posts or articles, and we would actively share those pieces of content through our Twitter channel, Facebook channel, YouTube, whatever the case is. And I call it giving content gifts.
Yeah.
We want to give content gifts to those people and not necessarily expect anything in return, because when the day comes around where we want to have them involved as speakers or share our information, now, I mean, they're all our friends now, but now we can do that. They all would be more than happy to come speak at our events. We get great rates from them. They share all our content. That's really our core network that we've been able to cater to, and we've done it because we went out to them initially and we shared all that content. We just didn't share our own stuff. Most trade shows, most associations, we spit out all our own stuff all day long.
Yeah.
So what we say is we use a little thing called Social Media 411. So what Social Media 411 is, it's 4 posts that go to that target influencer list that are not about us, that are relevant to our association, our members, our attendees, but not about us. And we tag that person so they know, whether we say it's via whatever their Twitter handle is, or we tag them on Facebook. We make sure they know about it, and we do it every week. So every 6 posts, 4 posts are that. 1 post is a piece of compelling content that we create, and then 1 post is a pure sales pitch.
Yeah.
So from a number, so if you said, hey, we know we need to do 12 tweets a day, now you know what the breakout should be of what you're sharing from influencers, your own content, and then sales pitches. Most associations, trade shows don't do that, and then they wonder at the end of the day, why aren't we building our network? Why aren't we growing as fast? Because you're not acting human. You're not giving gifts to those people, so ultimately they're compelled to share, and you make them part of the process, and they're more willing to share that information.
Yeah, so I think you hit it on the head. Not only are you going after the influencer network, the reciprocation of social media, which really is the focus of how the industries are moving forward. So I like your concept of the 411. When you see that, what type of percentage of impact do you feel you're getting on the influencers and the key players that you are reaching out to?
So it's good to know that for the first couple months you're going to hear crickets, and you probably should, because you have no credibility with these people.
Right.
So what we've generally done is we wait a couple months. We do that. In some cases, we'll reach out to them. We'd like to promote you on our network. Would you like to do a guest post for us? Or do you have anything that this big you'd like to share where we can share with our audience? Again, we're reaching out to them then directly. So once it's indirectly, so they see us, then we reach out to them directly. They already know who we are because we've been sharing their content.
Right.
And then we can go ahead and get them involved. So I'll give you an example. So we do a top content marketing blogs list. We've done it for years. That's part of our content gifts, where we promote all those people and say, these are the leading experts in our industry, we want to give them that gift. 26 of the 42 on the first page have taken that widget and put it on their page, and they promote that back. We never asked them to do that. We just said, here's the widget if you'd like to do it. Yeah. So not only do we get links, direct links from basically the 26 of the most highly trafficked sites that our readers could be on, or our prospective attendees could be on. We get search engine optimization juice, so that really helps. And all of them, we could reach out to any one of those and ask them for a favor, and they would say yes. It's hard to quantify that into revenue. All I can say is that leads to the point where we were able to do a first-year event of 600 corporate attendees, and we can do over 1,000 this year because we built those relationships up front. I don't see a lot of that happening, unfortunately. It's a lot of it's so easy to create the channel and push content out through it. It's so much harder to build the relationships up front.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Okay, well let's wrap up with a final question here. These are great tips and definitely dead on with where our audience, I think, is going. When you look forward toward the industry of event management, association management, what do you see in the way of whether it's new trends, new technologies, new tactical things, whether it's a social platform or just a digital platform in general? Do you see anything coming down the pipe that is really worthy of talking about?
Boy, who knows what the next platform is going to be, right? I mean, Pinterest came upon us so fast. Some of the trends that we're seeing, first of all, on the event side, it's just important to say that most of the events that I go to, they don't have a journalist in the room taking notes to do blog posts, and they don't videotape it.
Right.
And I'm putting my hands up, I'm like, this is the greatest content in the world that you're presenting, and nobody's taking that content to reuse that. Mm-hmm. So on that point, a lot of the trends we're seeing, and we're seeing this heavy on the corporate side with companies like Coca-Cola and companies like Kelly Services, I call it story explosion. I don't know if there's a better word for it, but the idea of story explosion is you take one piece of core content and you break that piece up into, let's say, 15 to 20 different parts. Let me give you an example. So let's just say, for example, that we've got a heavy hitter speaker coming in and we're going to videotape that.
Right.
So I'm going to say, let's do a story explosion on that. We have the video itself, which is the core content channel that I'm going to ultimately be put up in parts on YouTube and on Vimeo or whatever the channel is. You might do a series of blog posts around that. You might have the transcription. You could break that up into a podcast. You might do multiple infographics based on the content of that. You might have a SlideShare post that you put up from an ebook, pieces of ebook that you could use as social media sharing or partially as lead generation that you would have. You could do a white paper report, research, I mean, on and on. I mean, we can go on and on with it all day long. But we've got to think about the fact of what's the main content channel deliverable, and then how can we spread that out to all of the channels that we have depending on what our content strategy would be. I don't think enough companies are thinking about that and using that in all different ways. Honestly, we don't do a good enough job of it, and we talk about it all the time. But I think that's where the opportunity is. And just a quick tidbit, I talked to a publisher, this is about 6 months ago, and they put into effect to their journalists, and they said, when a journalist is commissioned to write an article on somebody, let's say that's a 3,000-word article, they want 14 pieces of content from that commissioning. So that means they want a tweet to and from the interview, they want a video of the interview, they want a podcast based on that, they want a short blog post, they want an article. That's what a storyteller is dealt with, a content creator is dealt with today. So I think a big trend that we're going to see is content creators understanding channels more and the context of those channels and being able to explode that story throughout so that you have those assets that you can use in all different ways to reach your customers where they're at online.
Right, and I think, to end on that, what a great technology that would be if we had the system, or there was a system out there that could take raw content, whether it was from a video and a podcast or even a short blog post, and be able to generate, kind of like what Listly does, and some of those services that create the on-the-fly infographics, things of that nature that could really help these content curation experts. Because I think you're right, we will get into a scenario where adoption rates will be somewhat lower if we don't figure out a way to, you know, better the tools and really get moving in that direction. But these are amazing tips, Joe. I want to thank you so much for stopping in today on Tradeshow Media Today.
Thanks, Paul.